Hello, this is Day, and this is part 2 of my tutorial on how to create your own tracks. Today we're going to be looking at how to texture your meshes, create materials, and UV unwrap. This is actually fairly straightforward, depending on how complex your track is. I've created a very quick layout just with different sort of sections, so we can just see how UV unwraps interact with different kind of surfaces. Obviously, this is not a full track, but you'll be able to apply what I'm going over here onto your own track. So we have a mesh, it's a cube, and on this right hand side, which I'm currently covering with my camera, so I'm going to move that. There we go. Move that there. On this right hand side, where my mouse is, you'll see all of these icons, right? Now, these just kind of all have different purposes. This can add like modifiers, which will change what your mesh looks like. But here on the very bottom, it's a red circle, just the one above the very bottom. And this is where you access your materials. Now, if I were to change what color my material is right now, you will see that there's absolutely no effect. This is because in the top right, up here, we have different view styles. So this just gives us a wireframe. Then the one next to it gives us a solid view of everything, but without materials. But then the one to the right of it, viewport shading, there we go, we can now see the colors. You're going to want to be able to enable this, have it on viewport shading, to be able to see any changes that you make. The one to the right of it just purely like includes the lighting you've got going on in your scene. So if I can't find where my light is, but if I were to quickly add a light, shift add light point. Where is it? Let's just make it really bright. Oh, it's inside the mesh, that's why. There we go. We can now see that the light interacts with it. Whereas if I put it on here, you can see there's no lighting. So that's just the difference between these two. This is helpful if you do all of your lighting within Blender and you want to see how it will look in-game, essentially. But I'd very much recommend doing all of the lighting in Unity just because you have more control over it there. And you don't have to go back and forth constantly. So I just thought I'd share that. But no, you're going to want to be in this view for pretty much 99% of the time. So we do not want our track to be a solid green color. You may, if you're going for a really low poly look, you may have a completely black track and then have white walls or something like that. You can do this again. So you'll have a material automatically on here, and if you click on the base color here, you'll be able to change sort of what color your track looks like. So that's just there for you to know. You can also create new materials, and let's say I only want this ramp to be a certain color. If I hit tab and go into edit mode, I'm going to want to select the faces that I want to change the color of. I'm going to want to create a new material. There we go. Oh, I've already done that. There we go, click new, and then we can choose a color. But you'll see that this hasn't actually changed what it looks like. This is because when we're choosing specific faces, we need to assign the material to it. So I'm going to click on this, and you can now see that this part of the track is green. Great. So that's how you apply specific colors and use the materials in that way. But let's say I want a texture, like something that looks like wood. Obviously, you can't do that with solid colors. I would very much not recommend turning this into a million faces and then choosing each face and basically doing pixel art on it. You don't want to do that. It's really simple. All we want to do is, I'm actually going to get rid of these two materials. So this should now apply to the whole track. It does. Brilliant. What we're going to want to do is, where it says base color, on the left, there's a little yellow dot. We're going to click on this, and we're going to try and find image texture. We're going to click on that, and you'll see it's now completely black. We're going to want to go down to open, because what an image texture does is it basically takes an image we've got in our folder, and it just sort of uses that as the material. So we're going to find whatever material we want. Date modify, here we go. So I've got this wooden texture here. Now, as I apply it, you'll see that it looks very stretched and weird and does not look like wood at all. This is purely because we haven't properly UV unwrapped it yet. And this basically, I guess, tells the mesh, what faces we need. I don't know how to describe it, but essentially, it just correctly maps the texture to the mesh. If that's what I'm trying to say. So, one thing I'd very highly recommend is first off selecting every face, and to unwrap, basically fix this texture. We need to hit U on our keyboard, and we get all of these different options. I would recommend starting off by clicking Smart UV Project and just using the default settings here. There we go. And you'll see already this has changed quite a bit. So we now can kind of see the correct material. This is just an automatic guess, essentially, of what the material should look like. Then obviously we can sort of modify it from here. But this is just a very good base step. Along the top, we have all of these options. I would recommend clicking on UV editing, because then, if we zoom out, we can now see how this interacts with our mesh. There we go, we can see all the faces along here. What we can do is we can hit A when our mouse is over. Oh, I've just realized I'm covering it again. Gotta move my. I'm just gonna make myself very small here. There we go. Alright, anyway, you can see all of our faces, right, have been selected here. If we scale this, I just want you to look at how this changes what the texture looks like. So as we make it bigger, we can see that the texture seems to repeat itself a little bit. You can see this pattern here. This is because if this is like a square of the image, it's just repeating that over and over again, and that's what it will do for the entire mesh. We want to try and avoid this as much as possible, make it not so obvious. So we want to try and find that sweet spot where if we scale this, I'd say about that looks nice. So now the repeats are still there, absolutely, but they're not quite as obvious because they're a little bit more stretched out. And when you're like racing across it, you're not really going to notice. You can either do it that way, or you can just make it so small that it looks like that. But I personally don't really like how this looks. But it's entirely up to you. I mean, it's your track. It's how you want it to look. But just be aware that this is how you can do it. You just scale what the faces look like to change the size, essentially. You can also do it by numbers. If you hit S and then like 0.5, you can halve it, or S2, you can double it. It's just a little bit more of a precise way to do it, if you want to keep things consistent. Anyway, so that's how you change how the textures look. Also, if you go over here and zoom out, you can actually move the texture left and right and up and down. This is really helpful if you've got textures that are connecting together and you want to line them up so it doesn't look as obvious that they're separate meshes or separate, like, faces, essentially. So that's that. Now, let's say if we go over here, I'm going to click this face. Now, I don't know how well this has done it. For the most part, that's okay. But we can see there's a bit of a disconnect here. This is obviously not ideal. So you could try and grab all of it, but you'll notice actually the direction has changed here. It's because it's of its curved nature, it kind of freaks out a little bit, and it's made all of this kind of diagonal now. So this isn't ideal in any way. It's not too much of an issue because it's on the side of a track, but obviously if you've got walls that are curved, the same issue is going to apply. So what you can do is if you hit 1 or 3, you can get a side-on view, and this will put you perfectly parallel to whatever it is you're looking at. There we go. So what you can do is try, I mean, because it's curved, you can't really get like a correct angle on it, but you want to try and look at it as face on as possible, like this. And you can edit this anyway in the UV editor, so it doesn't matter if you're completely off. And you're just going to want to hit U, and then project from view. And what this does is it kind of applies it like a sticker from where your camera is onto the mesh you're looking at. So again, if I hit tab, you can now see, if I scale this out, that this is now perpendicular, but it's going the wrong way. It's going upwards. The rest of the track goes sideways. If we look at a pattern over here, You can see there's kind of horizontal lines across it, but now we've got them going vertically. So all we need to do here is, again, go in tab. And what we can do is we can actually rotate what the faces are in here. We're going to hit R, and we want to rotate it exactly 90 degrees. There we go. You can now see the lines are horizontal. It's not perfect. There's a bit of a curve on it. You can try and change where the vertices look like. You can see it fixes it on the left there. Well, it doesn't fix it, it just changes it. You can try and get all the vertices to line up so it's a little bit straighter. There we go. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a lot better than how it was. And you would pretty much apply the same process. There we go, to this face. If I just look at it, I'm going to UV project. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, scale it quite a bit. You can now see that it's also horizontal. So this kind of works a little bit more. Now, again, I mentioned earlier about things not lining up properly. So all I'm going to do is move this. So these line up a little bit better. I mean, I know there's a bit of a mismatch here. I'm going to see if I can maybe fix that. No, I don't think there's any anyway. For the most part, though, I mean, again, you're driving quite fast. You're not really going to notice that kind of issue. And I'm just going to say it now. I'm not like a professional at this. This is still a fairly new technique to me. I'm just trying to pass on what I've learned because it's good enough to be able to, you know, apply a texture to your track. All right, and that is pretty much it for today. Hopefully this has helped in some way. If you're struggling with anything at all, or you've got any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll answer them as best as I can. Yeah, hopefully this has helped you. So, yeah, have a good day. I'll see you soon. Thank you.